Hello, today I will be discussing on interest rate and how does interest rate work. And interest rate is a macroeconomic variable and you should have a clear idea on the interest rate and how does it work. In this respect, I should mention that the Reserve Bank of India, that is RBI, on Friday announced a 40 BPS cut in repo rate to 4% from 4.4% earlier. Repo rate is the rate at which the central bank lends money to commercial bank. The recent cut in is likely to reduce equated monthly installments of borrowers and also make it cheaper to make new loans. It is a good news. It is a positive news, especially for those whose loans are linked to external benchmarks like the repo rate. A cut in repo rate means cost of borrowing will be lower for commercial banks. A cut in repo rate means cost of borrowing will be lower for the commercial banks. The rate cut will further help banks to lower loan interest rates for borrowers. So, repo rate is an instrument of the RBI through which the interest rate can be changed. If there is a decrease in the repo rate, then it is easier for the commercial banks to borrow money from the central bank at a lower rate. And so it is easy for the commercial banks to lend money to their customers at the low interest rate. And why this type of situation emerges in an economy, this should be considered by using the economic theory. Today, I am going to introduce interest rate theory. That is the interest rate working procedure. How does interest rate work? Now, aim of an economy. What is the aim of an economy? An economy is working, but it should have aim. So what should be the aim of an economy? The first, and it is important, minimizing unemployment. Unemployment should be reduced. This is one of the goal or one of the aim of an economy. And another important aim of an economy is to stabilize the inflation. It means minimizing unemployment and stabilization inflation are the two things that should be controlled. And now, how this minimization of unemployment and stabilization of inflation could be occurred? It could be done by interest rate, by using the interest rate. Here is the role of interest rate. Through interest rate, these two objectives, that is the minimization of unemployment and stabilization of inflation, can be done. Now, if there is an increase in unemployment in an economy, the situation of our country today is that there is a huge unemployment. Unemployment is increasing, so it should be reduced. it should be minimized. And if there is an increase in unemployment in an economy, interest rate should be reduced. By using the interest rate instrument, minimization of unemployment can be achieved. Now, if there is an increase in inflation rate and an economy is suffering, then interest rate should be increased. By increasing the interest rate, inflation rate could be under control. So here is the role of interest rate. Hope you could catch the point. What is the role of interest rate? Here the repo rate, that is the repurchase rate. And if the government try to reduce the interest rate, if the RBI try to reduce the interest rate, then the monetary authority have to cut the repo rate. And if there is a reduction in the repo rate, then it is easier for the commercial bank to lend money from the RBI. And they could provide loans at a cheaper interest rate. And if there is an increase in loans, it means that if there is a rate of reduction in the rate of interest, investment will increase. Investment will increase and consumption also increase. Consumption is also increased. So consumption and investment will be increased by reducing the rate of interest. People will go to the bank and borrow money for their consumption purposes or for their investment purposes. And as a result, production will take place. And unemployment will be reduced. And there is employment. So monetary authority introduced the cut in repo rate to reduce the unemployment rate, to minimize the unemployment. And on the contrary, if there is inflation in the economy, high inflation, then monetary authority will increase the interest rate. And so that the money supply is reduced in the economy and demand reduced. And the demand reduced. And demand is reduced. So this is the interest rate. So this is the interest rate. And how does the interest rate work? Now we will spread some light on this. Now look, this is the pictorial presentation of interest rate and the output. From these figures, we will try to understand how reduction in interest rate will affect the output, employment. Okay, from these three figures, we will try to understand this. There is figure 1. This is the figure 1. This is figure 2, and this is figure 3. Okay, this is figure 1, this is figure 2, and this is figure 3. Now, figure 1 Here, along the vertical axis, we measure the rate of interest, and along the horizontal axis, we measure the demand for money and supply of money. And in figure 2, we measure the rate of interest along the vertical axis, and along the horizontal axis, we measure the investment. And in figure 3, we measure the price level along the vertical axis, and along the horizontal axis, we measure the income or output. Now, look at this figure 1. Figure 1, M0 is the money supply, which is exogenously determined by the monetary authority, and this is the liquidity preference curve. And this is on the basis of Keynes. This is done on the basis of Keynes, the Nobel laureate Keynes. So this is a downward sloping curve. Demand for money will be reduced if there is an increase in rate of interest. It is theoretically proved. Okay, this diagram is drawn on the basis of theory. So here is an inverse negative relationship between the demand for money and the rate of interest. And to get an equilibrium in the money market, there is two markets in an economy, that is the goods market and money market. And there is a equilibrium in the money market, then money supply should be equal with the demand for money. And this point is the equilibrium point, initial equilibrium point. Here, the rate of interest is R1. Now, if the monetary authority cuts the repo rate, and there is a increase in the money supply. There is a increase in the money supply. And this increase in money supply shifts the M0 curve to M1 towards the right, and it is M1. Okay, it is M1. And what happens? We will get another equilibrium point. You know where the two curves intersect, that is called the equilibrium point. It is the new equilibrium point in the money market. So here the rate of interest is R0. Here the rate of interest is R0. So there is a decrease in the rate of interest from R1 to R0 as because there is an increase in the money supply. I hope you got the point. Now, this decrease in rate of interest should have an effect on the investment. As there is a decrease in the interest rate, there is an increase in investment. There is an inverse relationship between the investment curve and the rate of interest. It is known to us that there is a negative relationship between the investment and rate of interest. If there is an increase in the rate of interest, investment will be reduced. And if there is a decrease in the rate of interest, investment will increase. So what happens here? Rate of interest falls, so investment increases from I0 to I1. And this increase in investment should have effect on the aggregate demand. You know, aggregate demand is equal to C plus I plus Z. So aggregate demand is a summation of consumption, investment, and government expenditure in a closed economy. For example, in a closed economy. So if there is an increase in investment, then aggregate demand will increase. If there is an increase in investment, then aggregate demand will increase. So aggregate demand will shift up. it shift towards right and it will become AD1. It should be mentioned here that it is the aggregate supply curve. This is the aggregate supply curve. So equilibrium is initially is restored in this point where output is Y0. Now, because of increase in money supply, aggregate demand curve shift to the right and we get new output level, that is Y1. And that is another equilibrium, new equilibrium. This is the new equilibrium. So output has increased from Y0 to Y1. So increase in output is amount Y1 minus Y0. This much amount of output has increased because of increase in money supply through investment procedure. Okay, so if there is a increase in money supply, output will increase. So our economy is facing a situation where unemployment is increasing day by day. So investment should be increased. And here is a cut in the rate of interest. And it is here the importance of rate of interest exists. Now, if there is an increase in money supply again and again, what happens? Output will increase and increase. Output will increasing unlimitedly? No. That type of situation will not occur. If there is an increase in money supply, then rate of interest will fall further from R0. At low rate of interest, at very low rate of interest, investment curve will be insensitive to the rate of interest. So investment curve will be vertical and output will not increase further. And this is called the liquidity trap. Now, we'll be discussing this situation in my next slide, and we are erasing all this marking, otherwise I will not be able to move to my next slide. Okay. Now, interest rate is insensitive to investment. Look, this is the figure 1, this is figure 2, and this is figure 3. Okay. As I have mentioned that this is the rate of interest, and this is the demand for money and supply of money. This is the rate of interest, and this is the demand for money and supply of money. Now, if there is a decrease in the rate of interest from R1 to R0, R0 is very low, and we have increased a huge money supply. So R0 is very low. And at this very low, investment will be insensitive. Investment will be insensitive to the rate of interest. Okay. So there will be no effect of reduction in interest rate through increase in money supply on the investment. If there is no impact of reduction in rate of interest on investment, then aggregate demand will not increase, and there is no chance of shifting of aggregate demand towards right. And as a result, output will not change. output will be at y0. As there is an as investment is insensitive to the interest rate, I0 will be I1. It means initial investment and new investment will be the same. So output will not increase. So sensitivity of investment to the rate of interest matters, you know. Sensitivity of investment to interest rate matters. If there is a reduction in the repo rate, and as a result of this rate of interest falls, then some people will find it very good because they will be able to take loans from the commercial banks for their consumption purposes, for buying car, buying bikes, or for making a for making their own house. They will take loans from the banks, and it will definitely help for production, and unemployment will reduce. And as there is a reduction in the rate of interest, people will not want to save their money in the banks. They will go to the stock market and invest to earn more. But there is a risk. So risk is another factor. Risk is another factor. If people are not forward looking, then reduction in rate of interest will not help too much to increase the stock market. If people are forward looking, if the country is such type that most of the people are forward looking, then they will invest their money in the stock market, and as a result there is a production and reduction in unemployment. So what happens? This is the fundamental idea. This is the fundamental idea where the interest rate plays a role. Now, so what we could understand is that it is known to us, if there is a cut in if there is a cut in the repo rate, there is a reduction in the interest rate. There is a reduction in the interest rate, and this reduction in the interest rate may increase the production. So keeping in view this type of understanding, the monetary authority cuts the interest rate. So our country is facing such type of situation where unemployment is increasing day by day. So here is an instrument the monetary authority could take. So in this lecture, I try to clarify the impact of interest rate and what is the role of interest rate and how interest rate is determined. Hope you could enjoy these lectures, and hope you have a better understanding over this matter, and you will enhance your knowledge thereby. And I thank you for enjoying this lecture. Thank you very much.